do something before I answer that.
Yeah.
And my request is this. It would be very nice if we all stood up and be quiet for 1 minute in respect of the 26 million Soviet citizens that died in World War II. I joined the Royal Air Force in 1942. I served 6 years. I go into it a little bit more detailed, but I'm sure something that you will be very interested in. I was in the courtroom at the Nuremberg trials, and of course I met two Russian, one an alternate judge and another Major General. You can read this better than me. Can you?
Volchkov is a Russian alternate judge, and
Major General.
Major General Nikitinka, and the Russian judge.
So if you want me to go into that a little later on, but I saw history. This is after the war, of course. This is 7 months after the war. That's very, very briefly.
Oh, thank you very
This is
much.
us people.
So let's greet Mr. So then let me introduce Mr. Wells, sir. And could you introduce yourself as well, please?
Really?
Yes.
I've never been used to this sort of thing.
He's a very shy man.
Well, obviously my name's Wells, and but during the war, I never got as far as Russia, up north and south. Only we was with the Norwegians, and there was nothing specific done for anybody who was with the Norwegians during the war for some unknown reason. In other words, they didn't issue a, like you would for Russia, like they're wearing. And as I say, I was in the Navy for 3 years, and up and down there, around Nuremberg. But I'm very appreciative of the Russians because I think, in my opinion, they bore the brunt of the war, on land anyway, not necessarily at sea, but definitely on land. All those years that we was in the Blitz here in 1940-41, and then, quite frankly, we was a bit, because we was on the British were on their own then, or the English, English, Scots, Welsh and Irish. And we was a bit glad that it took when they invaded Russia, it took the pressure off of London. It got only for London, obviously. And that's why most of us lads, them days, we appreciated Russia very much.
Mr. Dan, could you introduce yourself? Just tell us about yourself.
Well, I finished my accountancy in 1939, and immediately I went to enlist immediately, and so I was there from 1939 until the end of the war after in 1946. I spent 2 years part of the army, which was in near Dover and so on.
And I in 1941, and I came out in 46. I spent most of my war in the North Sea, North Atlantic and the Arctic. And I omitted to say a few weeks ago...
Close on a happier note. I'm going to show you now a photograph of me in those days, and I don't want any giggling. All right?
No giggling. Oh. And we need a copy of this picture as well.
Hair altered. That's what I want to know.
It's black and white photo.
You see, this is such a subject that you have to put in an element of humour, even though one doesn't like to. But it's such a, particularly when you're talking to the younger generation. I've only covered a little bit. There's other people who want to speak. But I've got
Can you describe one of the most greatest competition
Events.
or events?
Would you speak a little louder? What was happening so much? Grenades, ammunition, food for 4 days, and a lot. But my ship, Sardine, it took us virtually onto the sand. But if you didn't get onto the sand, you could have drowned. But on each landing craft was a navy man. I don't know what you would call him, but he was driving it. Is it a driver or a captain? Coxswain. You see, I don't know these technical words. No, it's a coxswain. I'll tell you something even which will surprise you. Every aerodrome in the country, right, for months had tins of paint of every colour. Does anybody guess why? Every colour you could think of in every aerodrome. Well, I'll tell you why. Just before D-Day, the signal went out, black and white. So it was black and white paint. And the planes were painted black and white on the wings for identifying. But nobody knew what colour. Well, in every colour, until the signal went out, black and white. And if you see any films now of Spitfires, etc., or any warplanes, they all got underneath and round the fuselage black and white stripes. That's how secret things were kept. I mean, it was a wonderful...
The support of your bodies helped you to survive, saved your life. And have you kept in touch with any of your military buddies?
I've known him since he was 17 and a half. Now I'm nearly 3 years older. And I was his boss on board ship. And incredible it is. Every time he gets inebriated, he falls over. The last occasion, we went to the Belfast. We came away from the Belfast, he lost his medals, he fell over, and Mr. Vaslev gave us £40, paid for the taxi to take him home, and the two friends that should have been here this morning, but I think he's a fair weather sailor. He looked out and saw the snow and said...
Can I just ask through what... May I ask a question? Because I think it's
sure.
on this. What is the attitude, if that's the right word, of Churchill in Russia? I must tell you again a little bit of humour. I had the pleasure of meeting him once. I haven't watched since. I don't know where it was even, but I was standing to attention, and the first thing I realised what was happening was I smelt the cigar coming. Beautiful. And when he got level with me, he said, hello, and walked on. That's it. Well, he spoke to me. He was too busy to have a chat about the weather, but I just cherished that second that happened, that this is the right place to say it, in my humble opinion, he was the greatest Englishman of the 20th century. That's me talking. My colleagues can speak for themselves. I just wonder how he is revered in Russia, please. I would be very grateful for that if I can later on.
Yes, can I readdress this question to Anton?
Yes.
Yeah? What do you think?
As far as I know, Churchill is known as the leader of the English during the Second World War period, even though he lost the election to be the Prime Minister, because in the 40s, after the war, he lost the election, if I'm not mistaken, because of he didn't make such a campaign to get elected, but he was still the person who encouraged the people to fight, to continue to fight, and later he was chosen as the Prime Minister again.